And cue the intro. Oh boy, welcome back to another episode of the Strongman Winner Circle podcast. Episode 50, we've reached that milestone. Very exciting. So today, we are going over nutrition with our two guests. We have Terry Rady with Peerless Performance Systems, and then we have Justin Loy with Prestige Performance. Terry Rady, former America's Strongest Man. Justin Loy, national winner, and also has placed at World's Strongest Man, taking bronze at 105 kilo back in 2021. These guys are going to answer your questions. We have a bunch of topics today, so tune in, listen more, and learn some things about nutrition. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that. What's up, guys? Welcome to the show. Welcome back.
That was me 40 pounds ago.
I think it's cool that both our businesses start with a P.
Is that intentional?
Yeah, I base mine off yours. Yeah.
Oh, I based mine off yours.
Weird.
Conundrum.
What if we did Peerless Prestige Performance?
Ooh, we could combine forces. We could touch our peepees.
Great way to start the show.
Yes.
So, we have a bunch of topics today, a bunch of questions, but I thought we could at least start with, of course, there was a Clash weekend. You guys had many clients competing. I know especially you guys had Dan Hughes. I know you guys double team Dan on the regular when it comes to programming and coaching. So I thought you guys could talk a little bit about his lead up into the show.
Justin, it's all you.
Yeah. Well, Terry, you did his training. Go ahead.
So Dan and I, there's certain coaching client relationships that you can build with somebody that where it's just like a really good connection. I have one with Dan. Mel Peacock's another one. Carly Oliveira is another one who also competed at Clash for the women's. You go through the storm. I actually talked about this today. You go through the storm of kind of like listening to what they're saying, what they've done in the past that's worked for them, trying to come up with something new, like spicing, sampling things in there to see how they react to certain things. And then you kind of find a formula, and through this organic like communication that develops between two individuals, and you'll either really hit the nail on the head. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but with Dan and I, it was a situation of like, it's really been, something that's worked really well, as Dan and I have really cultivated a very symbiotic relationship. So yeah.
I was gonna say before you get into Dan, but Carly had a great show, taking fourth as a lightweight among middleweight. So I thought she did a great job. But with Dan, you coached him through all his kind of major podiums lately. Of course, third last year, second this year at Clash, second at World. So he's really becoming his own. And then if with Clayton moving up, he's probably potentially the guy with the biggest bullseye in the 105 kilo, at least the American scene.
Yeah, I would definitely say in the American scene, Dan, especially, I feel like as a person in the last year, he's done a lot of growth, which is directly correlated over to his training, and he's a guy who wears his heart on his sleeve. And he puts his all into everything, whether it be his friendships or his training. So, he also puts that in the coaching client relationship as well, that we have apart from our friendship, that he's not afraid to have tough conversations with me. And he's also not afraid to receive tough criticism from me. And that is something that I think a lot of people, have trouble with, is trying to separate that. And Dan does a really good job. And I think that's why he is becoming so successful, is because there's person Dan and then there's competitor Dan, and he can separate the two, but yeah, he's an all around athlete. He's great.
How is Dan's nutrition leading up into?
So yeah, like Dan, like Terry said, Dan's, made a lot of changes over the past year. And a lot of those has affected his performance for the better. Dan is a terrible eater. So he would go all day without eating and then just have like a steak and be good. So really pushing the calories to him was the big thing of like, we don't need to get super fancy. I just need you to eat a lot of food. And the way he processes it is wild.
What was his average calories?
we got up to, I think we were averaging around 5,000. Probably could have went higher, but I didn't want to. Everything was going fine. I didn't want to push it. There was time, like we were doing some higher carb days. Yeah, it's crazy how fast he processes everything. Where you cut back 500 calories and he drops like 5 pounds. And it's like the week of the comp. Normally, I always prepare for the worst with everybody. But then with Dan, it's like as soon as his mind's like, okay, well, I got to compete next week, his body just like starts dropping weight to where we didn't have to do. I think he may have bumped up his water just a little bit, like just make sure he's maintaining like a gallon a day or something. But we didn't really do anything except for like cut carbs back, and he was good to go. But yeah, I think this was the most prepared he was physically and mentally for a competition, as far as like having everything on point, and it really showed. But also, big shout out to John Stacy, who I'm super proud of for making weight, because given, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but given his history of cutting weight, he doesn't always do so well or follow through. So I'm super proud of him for like seeing it through to the end.
I saw John at the Arnold like 3 weeks before, and he was about like 260. So he did a good job.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. His weight came down pretty easy. I'd say like the last 8 pounds came off pretty hard. But I think he ended up weighing in a couple hours late. But yeah, I was really impressed.
Oh, excellent. Any other athletes you guys want to mention?
Justin?
Let's see. It was different this year. Just like all the new guys being there, like different faces and everything. So that really shook some things up, some performances, that, because of course you got like going in, you're like, kind of predicting who's going to make the finals, stuff like that. And, there were some performances that weren't that great, a lot of torn biceps that, really shook some things up. But I think it was an impressive, pretty impressive, the people that showed out.
And then Terry, Eric Olmsted, your other client, made the finals. So you had three clients in the finals.
Correct,
including with Isaac too.
Yeah, Dan, obviously, Isaac Mays, who I was working with last year when he won. He's had a tough couple months. So what we got through, he tore his hand really bad on the first day as well. Did the best he could, but he'll bounce back. Mike O'Connor was there. Mike is an interesting one because Mike's level of communication is like incredibly outstanding. If I text Mike, he gets back to me quick. He keeps me up to date on his HRV. He tells me about his sleep. Like he lets me know. And he's also another one. Why I think Mike and I will end up having a really good relationship is because he's also somebody that's like, hey, I don't feel like this works for me, at least not right now. This is what I did in the past. Is there any way you can work with this, like to kind of maybe put something together? It's like, absolutely. I know the methods he likes. I know what he reacts well to, especially now that we've kind of worked together for about 3 months. I can see how the way I would approach training for somebody like him can impact his body in terms of his recovery. So Mike is another really serious athlete. Carly Oliveira is the same way. She did fantastic for the women. Eric Olmsted was in the 105s. He's my dark horse. He's somebody that like, he's not much of a talker. He's a get in, get there, get business done type of guy.
How old is Eric?
I'm not sure. Maybe 27, 28.
He's young.
He won Nashville, didn't he?
What?
Did he win, or he won Nashville, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he did really good there too. That was impressive.
He did really good at Nashville. The second day events, I think the pace of it, the heat, like I think next year Eric's gonna like know what to expect a little more, and he's gonna put together a really good package next year. And then I had Katie Gutwald, who was also in the women's. She has done one of the most dramatic 180s in terms of competition mindset. She's always been very critical of herself, a lot of negative self-talk. And this competition especially, like she showed out. She did great. There were a couple like little blunders. One was like a judging error. Another one like was on her. But she is very accountable to that. I'm so impressed with like how far she has come, like from a mindset perspective, which is something that a lot of athletes have trouble with, is kind of establishing that mindset, because, you know, the level it takes, like the mindset it takes to get to that next level when the chips are down. You know, it's a special type of athlete, and she's slowly getting there. And she really showed it this weekend. So,
well, congratulations to all the athletes who competed this weekend. Of course, it was great to watch. I was watching on ESPN3, so it was a great stream. So let's get into our nutrition topics. So the first one, we're going to start with carb cycling for performance and weight loss, and we got a lot of questions regarding carb cycling. But how does someone just approach carb cycling going into different periodization or going into different training cycles, especially for weight loss?
I like to do carb cycling is like my go-to for somebody who's in like a.
What is carb cycling at first?
You are cool. So carb cycling is varying the amount of carbs you're eating throughout the week. Basically, you're eating high carb days, low carb days, no carb days at times. I'm sure there's like this science, like an actual term for it. Terry,
is there a science term for carb cycling?
I was going to throw out like a sciencey term.
No. I'm
anyway, cool. So it's so the basically when people like do their like diet, they'd be like, okay, on training days, I'm going to eat, you know, this much. On non-training days, I'm going to eat this much. Okay. Well, carb cycling, you mess all that up. And I like to do it because for strength training and performance and stuff, you want to fuel for what you're going to be doing as opposed to refueling from what you've already done. Right. It's like filling up your gas tank to go on a long drive. So, you know, you do a varying of like a high carb day into a moderate carb day into a low carb day, and then run that cycle again. So you're doing, you know, on like a training split, if you're doing like you have a rest day on a Sunday and then you train Monday, Tuesday, and then you have a rest day on a Wednesday, Sunday would be your highest carb day. So you're eating, you know, whatever, let's say 800 grams of carbs on a Sunday. Okay. And then you're going into Monday, Tuesday at like a moderate level. So kind of maybe like half that, 400, 300, somewhere in there. And then, on Monday, you would cut that like in half. And then Tuesday, that would be your low carb day. Okay. So you're training on a low carb day, but then you're putting everything around training. So you're eating a little bit of carbs before, a little bit of carbs after. So you're getting that little glycogen rush before, and then you are refueling after, and you go into your rest day, and then you refuel and do it all again. It sounds crazy, but it works.
Now, how do people? I know you mentioned a little bit, but how do people optimize that for kind of weight loss?
So you can work, and it's all working around manipulating your macros. So I look at, you know, primarily the carbs, you know, keeping your proteins at, you know, kind of wherever you're at with those, normally a gram per pound body weight, maybe a little bit less. And then kind of normally on a higher carb diet, I like to run fats a little bit lower. So you can essentially be in a maintenance or slightly above, and on certain days in a deficit, so that you are you're just slightly working down your weight without, you know, depleting yourself and, you know, taking the strength hit from that. So you're fueling yourself at certain times to get the most out of it without, you know, overeating too much.
Yeah, you're essentially trying to utilize glycogen at certain times. That's all we want to do. We want to just utilize glycogen. We want to make sure that we have enough carbs in the system to fuel the training. I personally like to just keep carbs under 150 on rest days and focus on super high fats, because on our rest days, we're focused on, you know, trying to stay in as parasympathetic state as possible. We're trying to recover our brain. We're trying to get the right amount of hormones to where our body is going to be ready to not only train hard, but also process carbs. So we need to be sure that we give our bodies those breaks. Now, like for cutting, if I'm trying to lose weight, I'll carb cycle, but I'm still keeping my carbs at under, like, I think whenever I would do some sort of cut, I would still keep my training day carbs under around 500. I wouldn't go any more than that for the whole day. And a majority of that time, it would still be focused right around the workout. Like I would slam carbs after a workout and have some carbs intra workout and then a little bit of carbs pre-workout. But I mainly used like carb cycling, like hard carb cycling when I was bulking. That was like my thing. But that's like you guys always had to cut weight. I never had to cut weight. You know what I'm saying? And I did that intentionally. Just because I, would structure my diet in my off season, like, and I'm trying to bulk up. That's when I would do carb cycling. When I'm in competition season, everything is around just centering my carbohydrate intake around my workouts. And on days that I'm not training, I'm just super high fats, super high protein, not really concerned about carbs because I'm just focused on the recovery aspect from the training. And then if I had an event day, because like I could get by on my regular carbs throughout the week, but that event day, you guys know it takes, it beats the tar out of you when you have that Saturday training. That Friday night would typically be a rest day, and I would have more carbs that day. Not at night. Like if I'm training at noon, I'm probably going to eat those carbs around like, 3, just so it carries over into the next day. But that's, no later than 8. I wouldn't have carbs because I didn't want the insulin spikes when I was sleeping.
Yeah, interesting. Now, of course, this topic was a little bit on weight loss, but what's the suggestion for carb cycling while gaining weight for someone like myself?
Keep pushing the calories.
Yeah, I mean, just hit the gas pedal, honestly.
So I got, I have a couple people gaining weight in a pretty close to comp that I got them in carb cycling, and it's basically doing the same thing I just said, fueling up for what you're going to be doing. But then everything's just, keep upping the calories, pushing the calories up, pushing the carbs higher, I got a couple guys eating upwards, I think over 7,000 calories on a couple days a week. Just slowly gaining, I don't know, a pound and a half a week, maybe. But yeah, you got to find your baseline of where you're at of maintaining is a good place to start. And then, just keep from week to week or from, I go week to week and just kind of slowly up things.
All right.
But like a good example, I just thought of it. I work with Jim Mitchell, who won the 90 kg Clash in Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So we were doing, I had him in a carb cycle going into that show. And when we started working together, I think he was in the mid 220s. And then we dieted down because he had to cut to 198. And so we, dieted down a little bit to maintain, like, I was shooting for averaging at like 215. So then, because that sets up for like a pretty decent cut. And then we got into our carb cycling. So he runs a 8-day training split with like his lighter days are like some grip work and just some conditioning stuff. And so we're basing our cycling around that to where I think at times I had him upwards of 7, maybe 800 grams of carbs or so. And we had a big weight fluctuation. So there was days that he would be, down as low as, I think he hit like 212 or 211 in days where he'd be over 220, but we were still averaging around that 215, 214. And then it was just slowly progressing. And then when we got closer to it, and he was still like, training was going great, hitting PRs, peaking at the right time, everything. And then once we got closer to comp, we just backed all that down. And then his weight just started to level out and then slowly drop up into like I think he had a 13 pound cut maybe.
It was, of course, a great example of it. All right, awesome. I think that's, of course, we cover a lot on the carb cycle. So in terms of next topic, this is one of my topics: fasting in relation to strongman. Is this something that strongman should incorporate? I used to do some fasting. I tried to avoid it around kind of close to competition time. But when I was cutting, I kind of threw a couple of fastings in there. But usually I would do it on Sundays, and then would hit the sauna, and then would wait maybe until midday to kind of start eating. But what do you guys think about fasting and then restarting kind of your glycogen sensitivities and all that. So what were your thoughts there?
I utilized fasting only in the off season. I wouldn't do it in competition prep. And reason being is like, especially when you're in the cutting phase of things, I know like intuitively you think like, oh, fast, less calories, I'm cutting weight. I wouldn't do that just because training, like if I was cutting because I think I cut 24 pounds for 90 kilo world's strongest man. When you're cutting, you are so receptive, like you're in such a sympathetic state that your body's just going to react so hard to external stressors. So I don't want to increase my chance for injury. I don't want to have any uncontrolled variable. So I want to be in complete control of everything. So when I'm cutting or I'm prepping for a show, no. Off season, absolutely. I would fast on Sundays. I would do it every 2 weeks, maybe sometime once a week. And that's just to make me hungry because I'm trying to eat. So like when I'm doing like my off season, I'll go up to like what Justin was doing, around like 7,000 or 8,000 calories. But if I'm trying at the start of a prep, like 16, 12 weeks out, I'm doing 10,000 calorie or 10,000 or 1,000 gram carb days. Where I'll do like 100 grams of protein, 120 grams of protein, no fat, and 1,000 grams of carbs. That's what I'm doing because I know it's going to make me feel full. I'm going to feel great for training that week. It's going to have a great carryover. I'm not going to bloat as a result of that. I never bloated from that just because the fats were so low and so was the protein. So I would only utilize fasts in the off season.
Now, what would like a typical day of fasting look like?
Black coffee, just that's it. Water and black coffee.
And then when do you break the fast? If you like wake up at 8 a.m., when would you break the fast?
The next morning.
All right, so you go throughout you don't even do dinner.
Mm-mm.
Interesting.
So in that next day, boy, you are hungry.
And Terry goes to bed hungry?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, nothing prepares you for cutting weight like going to bed hungry in your off season. Because when you do it for contest prep, you're like, oh, this is nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Justin, any comments on fasting?
Yeah. So Terry, you would do like a 24-hour?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. I rarely do 24-hour stuff, 24-hour fast. I will with some people. I will with myself on a rare occasion, but usually I like to do like a 16 to 18 hour, just to push myself into the afternoon, and less of a, I guess, performance related reason is just like on my lower calorie days, like when I'm not eating a lot of carbs or whatever, it's easier for me to just not, like if I can only eat a little bit, it's easier for me to just put it off and eat it in a couple meals. So like a couple high protein meals as opposed to eating a little bit throughout the day. But also it does help make you pretty receptive to glycogen, taking things in. Plus like there's a recovery aspect and insulin sensitivity, stuff like that. So I do not in competition prep, but I will have people, go from into a high carb day. I will have them do a fast or something. Sometimes, do a fast going into that so that you're super receptive and you start eating, just suck everything up.
Now, would you guys ever run like a 3-day fast or recommend that in the off season? I think I saw Shane Germain, MTS system, do like a video about it like last year, but Terry's shaking his head no. Justin,
I wouldn't.
No,
I don't see the point for it. I mean, you could argue, you're going to release a certain amount of acetylcholine, you're going to release a certain amount of, dopamine in the brain, like, or serotonin, but like, I just don't, like, from a performance standpoint, especially when we think of like, what are you doing in, like, what is the off season? What are you there for? Like, you're there to build, you know what I'm saying? So like, if we're building something, why am I doing a 3-day fast? You know what I'm saying? Like, it just that's counterintuitive to like just training in general, for sports, something so specific like strongman.
So 24 hours is probably the max.
Yeah. Just anything more than that is just, I don't know, maybe like content.
That makes sense. It was just funny when I asked back when I had Martins on. I asked Martins what his favorite cheat meal was. He goes fasting because he's normally gorging food. And he's like when he has a break from taking all that food in. That was his.
I love fasting. I still fast sometimes. It's like one of my favorite. Like I love it. Like I get so much done on the days that I fast. Like
it's so much easier to not eat.
But I mean, I got up to like I was pushing close to 260, like at one point in time. And I mean, I'm what, 5 now. Like I was pushing weight so hard for those, years, like 4 or 5 years. Like I was just eating food. I went from, being a regular 200-pound person to 260 in like, 4 years time.
That was one large Terry. I remember
big old boy.
But moving on to the next topic. So usually when people are starting to lose weight, or just try to measure performance or progress, they get fixated on the scale and get fixated on weight. Why? Tell the listeners why this is a problem and you shouldn't be paying attention to the scale when trying to measure progress.
Because it's going to drive you nuts. Because your weight loss isn't just a direct line. Like I tell everybody when they first start with me, like the first couple weeks, I don't know what's going to happen. You could lose 10 pounds. You could gain 10 pounds. Like we don't know. So just don't check the scale. And then, but a lot of times, if you are, especially like going through like all those changes to your body, especially like if you're, you're consistently under eating, you're eating a lot of like, fast food, shitty food, whatever it is, like there's always going to be, your body's going to respond to the change. So there's always going to be some side effect of that. And so then like once you do get things leveled out and you start to lose weight, your weight changes daily from, stress, inflammation, water retention, maybe you didn't get good enough sleep. So, there's people that check their weight every single morning and they're like, oh, I woke up, a pound heavier today. And it's like, okay, well, you got 2 hours of less sleep last night. So, that is a factor. And you got to take that into all these things into account. So the best thing you can do is just when you start something, just go like a month. Just don't check your weight. And, as long as you have a plan and you're like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. You're going to get results. Then you can go on and, check your weight and then kind of manage from there. And then if you're like a new person, like a new, try like into like getting into exercise, getting into working out, something like that, or you have been for a little bit, don't worry about what the scale says. Just focus on eating right and lifting weights or whatever you're doing for exercise and kind of let things naturally happen. Because if you're, you start eating right, you start eating cleaner foods, you get your gut health in check and you're lifting weights, your body's going to respond to that. You're probably going to start putting on muscle, burning fat. So, and you're going to notice, like a lot of times you notice physique changes, like my clothes are fitting different. I'm starting to see like a little bit more definition in things, but you fixated on the scale, it's stuck at that same weight, but you're not taking into account like, oh, I'm building muscle, burning fat. Like I'm clearly leaner. That's why I always tell people like use progress pictures, take pictures to judge off of your progress. And then, once you get to a point, then you can start to manage the weight better.
Do you recommend measuring muscles like biceps, chest, legs?
Not really.
No,
I don't. I really like the idea of progress pictures because even measurements, can drive people crazy. Like, I don't know. My arms have probably been the same size for like 10 years.
Yeah, you have small arms.
Yeah, I got little arms, little girl arms. But yeah, I mean, progress pictures and body scans. Getting something done to tell you, your fat mass to lean mass, things like that, like DEXA scans and body scans, things like that.
All right.
Show you
Terry, anything you want to add to that topic?
I actually have a controversial answer. So the problem with looking at the scale is that no one has a frame of reference. I don't particularly care if people look at the scale, especially if they're a nutrition client of mine. I don't, but you have to have the right frame of mind. So Katie Gutwald, she had to be 180.4 something like that for middleweight strong man court.
Mm-hmm.
And she 2 weeks out was very stressed about it. Very stressed. She was at 189. So she had to lose about 8.5 pounds. Now she's stressed about this, and I'm trying to reassure her. And I said, hey, what if I told you that you only had to lose 5% of your body weight? And then she said, oh, okay. So here's the thing. If you're going to check the scale every day, that's fine. But if you see the scale go from 155 to, 158, well, that's what, 5% or something like that. 3%. I don't know. But it's such a small percentage. It's meaningless. You see what I'm saying? So you can look at the scale as like a frame of reference, but you are going to be heavy. It's like the scale isn't inherently a bad thing. It's what you do with that number that's the bad thing. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's like, if you can just frame it in percentages, like if I go in and I'm 205 this day and I'm 207 the next day, like I gain what, like, a percent. Like, okay, whatever. I gain 1%. Now, if you're gaining like 10% or you're dropping 10% dramatically, then you should go talk to a doctor. But like, having like a frame of reference of why numbers are okay on the scale, I don't inherently think it's bad. It's what you do with that information. And I think that when you can start, constructively seeing those numbers and use them that way instead, it bleeds over into so much more of your life. In a positive way that you don't even think about when you can kind of frame your mind that way. Like this negative thing that I used to like make this negative connotation with, it's not negative now. Now it's a neutral thing. So that way I'm not going to be hyper reactive to it. And then that just bleeds over into everything else.
All right. Excellent. It wasn't too controversial, but it was thank you for
mindset coaching.
Mindset.
Yeah.
The mindset.
I work with some normies. So I'm in the whole like
normies,
the normie mindset of just don't look at the scale.
You know who you are. Normies.
One fun topic I wanted to talk about, and I think it's pretty important, is and I'll see kind of your kind of recommendations. But for instance, going into the Arnold this year, I know that I was going to be surrounded by hundreds of thousands of people. So especially kind of post COVID, there's going to be be in the winter. There's going to be colds, flus, noroviruses out there. So I pumped a lot of either ginger or probiotics, elderberries, just any supplements that help my kind of immune system, because I wasn't looking to get sick before the Arnold and during the Arnold and when I come back. And luckily that's helped. The only time I've gotten sick at contests is when I'm not competing. I actually picked up COVID at USS Nationals, just hanging out with Dan and just spectating for the day, but I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting to get sick, but I came back and got COVID, and I spread it to my rest of my family, so that was fun. But do you guys have any suggestions when it comes to immune system supplements around competing?
Don't hang out with Dan.
Don't hang out with Dan. That's
what I just gathered from that.
Stay away from everyone.
Yeah, I competed at a jiu-jitsu con this past summer. And went to Six Flags with my wife the weekend before just to hang out and check it out, and got like a respiratory infection. So I was competing with a respiratory infection that next weekend. It's like, you take the risks, it's like you going out in public, you're doing things like if when I competed in Strongman, I took it so seriously that I did not go anywhere like the last 3 weeks, just because it wasn't worth it, whether I get sick or whether I, get talked into tying one on, or what I'm saying? Like, it was just never worth it.
Mm-hmm. But was there any, but for instance, do you guys ever, or Justin, do you supplement your clients with immune system?
I push the Terry mix, your lemon juice, ginger.
Oh yeah.
So
the gut health bomb.
Yeah. So my thought behind your immune and being like staying healthy, granted, there are those outside factors. A lot of us spend a lot of time indoors now. We're not doing like running outside, doing wild shit like we used to. So you are like, I think you are more susceptible to getting sick when you're in like a crowded place. There's all that germs and stuff flying around, but you can have like little mix, my health bomb thing. You can have your system in check, and as long as you're not doing anything crazy. So if you're still not out and about like doing things, like make sure that your sleep's on point, and you're not, like, a big one is people like to go out drinking and stay up all night, and then they try to, and then they try to, you're hungover or something, and they're like, I'm gonna go to the gym and do this and that, and then they start feeling like crap, like they're already like in this weird state where you're not feeling great, and then you're going to push it, and then something enters their body and makes them something adverse, and they get worse from it. So my biggest thing is keep your body and gut in check, gut and health in check, and don't do anything stupid when you're close to competition.
Interesting. I was doing the health. I was doing your health bomb. And I still kind of incorporate it, but I wasn't really thinking for immune system. I was just thinking just because it's healthy. But a healthy body is a safe body, I guess. In the end of the day. Anything else you want to add, Terry, before we move on?
No, I don't know. I'm curious if the George Carlin route works. Like we talked about how when they were kids, they used to swim in the Hudson River because it was so dirty. That's why they never got sick. So it's like it's either one way or the other. It's either you do all the herbs and the health potions, concoctions to stay healthy, or you just live in a trash can and hope that might work.
I never got sick when I was a kid because I always ate a lot of cow shit. So I know that sounds bad. Because
wow. What kind of childhood did you have? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in
Indiana, like you, Terry.
Indiana, yeah. We had cows, and I was always out in the pasture and stuff. And
you're up in West Lafayette.
Yeah.
So for the Arnold Amateur this year, so you have think about like all the competitors that you have, all their coaches. We're in this big room and it's hot and sweaty. We just did 30 minutes of rules, and then Nathan Payne, the pro body coach, comes in and talks for 15 minutes when everybody's trying to get out of there and go eat dinner, talking about kind of day of nutrition, and he was a big component of like of certain carbs. So he says stay away from like gummy bears and sour worms, just because those glycogen, the glycogen from that is going to spike it and then give you a rush, and then you're going to burn out from that. He was like big into Rice Krispies treats. I think he said Little Debbie's and like things like that. But what do you guys think about day of competition nutrition, and what would you recommend?
I mean, yeah, that's what I ate, but it's
which one, the Rice Krispies and Little Debbie's, or the gummy worms and stuff?
I used both. I would use glucose stabs more specifically, just because it's a slower type of carb than like fructose. But you're so, just so people know, it's not that you're eating the wrong thing. It's all about the timing. So when he says like Little Debbie's, you're thinking, oh my God, that's so much worse. Rice Krispies, what? That's got fat. It's like, yes. Now, in a pinch, like gummy bears and stuff will work, but only eat just a couple. Like you only need a little bit of that fructose but only after you do an event, like right after, immediately, boom, just a couple. But the Rice Krispies and the Little Debbie's and things, they have a little bit of fat in them. There's a lot of carb and sugar with fat that's going to slow down the digestion, but it's so small, it's not going to expand the stomach and fill you up. I see people eating like chicken and rice and things like that, and I never did that when I competed. Even at big, long contests, I never did that. Reason being is there's more efficient ways to achieve that end goal without trying to put so much in the belly, because you got to remember, when you're doing things like, for instance, a Conan's wheel, where the legs are going to be burning, your body's going to be pumping so much blood in trying to like figure out what to do with all this lactate, that your stomach is going to be the first place that your body starts pulling blood from. It can't pull it from the heart. It can't pull it from the lungs. It can't pull it from the brain. It can't do anything else except send it from the gut to the muscles. So that process is going to slow down. And once you have that food sitting in your belly, that's why people start feeling nauseous and stuff like that. So we got to think like, what is so small that it's going to be easy to digest, but best bang for the buck? You see what I'm saying?
Interesting. So you pack a bag with, of course, gummy bears, sour worms, Little Debbie's, and Rice Krispies. What do you think about like apples and bananas?
Apples are okay. If I had to tell an athlete what to take, I would say, okay, you're gonna go get a bottle of glucose tabs from the diabetic section of Walmart. Get the orange flavor. That's the best one. You're going to eat 4 or 5 tabs after each event. And then if you get hungry, you're going to do something like almonds or granola, and you're going to do like a half of a peanut butter and jelly, or a Little Debbie oatmeal cream pie, or a Rice Krispie bar, something that is going to give you that, sugar at a moderately slow pace that's not going to take up a bunch of space in your stomach, because you already took in the glucose tabs. You see what I'm saying? So your body's already working to restore your glycogen. So we just need to like shift it to somewhere else and say, okay, I got you. I met you at the door. Now I'm going to let you in, and you take your time getting to the couch so you can sit down. You see what I'm saying?
Now, what do you think about Pop-Tarts? Is Pop-Tarts
Pop-Tarts work.
All right. I do like my Pop-Tarts. Justin, anything you want to add about day of competition?
Yeah, very similar. It's all about timing. You don't want to spike and crash. You don't want to spike too much too early and crash. I have almost everybody on before training, and because I try to do training nutrition very similar to competition nutrition. So I got everybody doing Rice Krispie treats and a protein shake like 40 minutes or so before training, before competition. Like before that first event, you start to warm up, eat a couple Rice Krispie treats, drink a protein shake. Then you go start warming up. And then I've always liked to have like a gallon jug mixed up with like water, Gatorade, and some salt, and just sipping on that throughout the day. And my go-to has always been Uncrustables. Because I love Uncrustables. So that's my excuse.
You're so rich, dude. You have so much money.
What? No, I get them at Walmart, dude.
Yeah.
My day. Yeah, same thing. There's carbs, some sugars, fats. Don't eat a lot. Don't be sitting there like wolfing them down between events. Like, oh, I'm hungry. Don't think about your hunger. Think about just, get enough in, just kind of satisfy it a bit, get a little carbs and sugars and fats in there, and you're good.
No, interesting. I'm gonna take a lot of notes on that. So, of course, when I always re-listen,
I also like salt.
Salt, yeah. Well, salt is great. I was always a great component about I put salt in my pre-workout shake just because that's my salt, and post because I love salt. So let's of course that was a great topic. So moving on, so we have two more topics to go. So in terms of when you're putting a plan together, in terms of your nutrition, how do you start with your goal setting? So is it kind of similar to maybe like the Strongman? Do you set your end goal, but then you set your little goals in terms of where you want to hit? But what would you guys recommend in that sense?
I think with competing, it's individual based of where you got to find a starting point with someone. So, if it's to most people are more times than not going to be cutting weight to make it into a weight class. So starting, you got to find like, okay, by this date, we have to be this weight. Are we going to try to I'm comfortable with getting people to make, 15-pound cuts. Ideally, I'd like it to be less. If we can get less, great. But, let's shoot for 12 to 15-pound cuts. But so we look at, you got to have a start point for there. So like this is the end goal, start point, and then kind of see how they respond in the first few weeks. And then you need to tailor things to, if they start to respond well to the diet and you have enough time to play with it and get their weight down into a reasonable range of, that about 12 to 15 pounds of weight, then you can turn things and be like, okay, so now we're going into the last, 8, maybe you had 3 months with them. So you're going into the last, 8 weeks of prep or so, or, 6 to 8 weeks of prep. You can turn things and start pushing the calories up and doing that in a way so that you're not gaining weight. Maybe the weight's fluctuating, but you're not gaining weight. So you're, peaking better, performing better. And then once you get to a certain, couple weeks out, then you start to tailor things the other way, kind of start to set them up so that they're able to make, set up to cut weight and then have, dial everything back and make, shouldn't have to sweat at that point. Same with like gaining weight. If it's like, I need to be, 10 pounds heavier. It's like, what do we have to do? Let's start pushing calories, but we don't want to push all the calories at once because we're trying to, gain efficient mass, not fat mass.
Excellent. Terry, anything you want to add on that topic?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a numbers guy, like I said, percent. So like I generally, if I'm gonna have a person cut, I always try to get them within like 7% of their target weight. That's, but if we're off season, I'm not as like strict. I always typically say I want people to gain weight in the off season, even if they have to cut. Like, we'll get you back down in that range. I'm not concerned about that. But like somebody like James Jeffers, he's heavy, but yeah, he could stay the same weight and put on a lot more muscle mass. You see what I'm saying? Like James has room to spare, but another client of mine, Alex Kopp, is the opposite. He needs to actually just gain weight, like a little bit sloppier weight, because Alex is covered in muscle. So it just depends on the situation, because I can have two athletes, but they're very different athletes that need very different things. In the number that they are body weight wise might not necessarily reflect that goal that I'm trying to get to them. So it's all just situational for me. And if we're cutting, it's always that 7% rule. I generally don't like to go anymore. I'll go maybe to 10%, maybe, but generally as a rule of thumb, I never go over 10%. But I try to stay at that sweet spot of like 7% body weight.
Of course, thank you for that, Terry. But I do want to say I have a bone to pick with Jeffers. He pretty much sandbagged the whole Arnold until the very end. I was beating him for most of the Arnold, and then at the last event, I took 9th. He took 1st.
He had never done power stairs before, and he won the power stairs.
He's crazy strong, so I'm excited.
I gave the best advice that weekend to all my athletes. Like him, he said, well, what do I do for the power stairs? I said, all right, man, you're going to go up there, you're going to pick it up, you're going to put it on that step, you're going to jump up there, and then you're going to do it again. You're going to do it as many times as you can, just as fast as you fucking can. And he was like, okay. And then Mel, she was going to go do the frame carry, which was fantastic for her. Huge PR all the way around. And she said, any advice? And I said, all right, you're going to pick it up and you're going to just go. I said, walk up the ramp. If you can run, you should run. And she was like, okay. And it worked. So I think my new technique, my new method is to make the advice as simple and as possible. You know what I'm saying? I think that's really starting to click for me.
But I actually I picked his brain after the event. I asked him about his power stage training, and he actually worked comp weight and also like went up to like 550. Our top weight was 484. And he
only had one loading pin.
Say again?
He only had one loading pin, so he was working one loading pin back down.
That's similar to what I did, but I think I undertrained it, but I kind of liked how he trained and he gave me some tidbits. So I have Terry's training in my phone. Don't you worry. So I got a question, and this is a little bit pertaining to myself. So heading into the past Arnold Amateur, I was 275. I did the in-body scan. I was like 14.8%. So of course, I do plan on gaining weight. So probably starting in July, I'll start gaining weight again. I'll look to maintain about 275 until then. But when should I pull back on gaining weight in terms of body fat percentages? Like if I start creeping over 20, is that when I should start pulling back in terms of body weight percentages?
I think the body fat percentages are irrelevant. I think the thing for you, especially with how you compete and what you're good at, is when you start to noticeably slow down. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're carrying a 900-pound yoke at 50 feet in 8 seconds, and then you gain body weight and you're moving that 900-pound yoke at 11 seconds because you feel a little bit like you're moving a little bit slower because you move more mass, I would say that's a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
performance based.
So, yeah, but you guys don't incorporate body fat percentages when it comes to gaining. And
look at NFL players, man. Some of these dudes have crazy amounts of body fat, and they are explosive. They're fast. It's the body fat it's a myth. It's all about the muscle and the muscle fibers themselves. How are they reacting to being in that high fat environment?
All right. Well, of course, thank you for schooling me there, guys. So let's get to our fan questions. So with any fan questions, we'll do a little rapid fire. Sometimes they're gonna be quick worded answers. Some of them are pretty some of them are funny, some of them are pretty straightforward. But alcohol consumption during training and peaking, I say no. But what do you guys say?
The only alcohol I'm taking in is the benzyl alcohol I'm cutting my growth hormone with. I'm just kidding. No, absolutely not. Especially because, you know, you're gonna screw up your peak, and you're just gonna feel like dog crap.
Mm-hmm. Anything you want to add, Justin? Alcohol and performance?
Yeah. Old Justin. Yeah. New Justin, don't drink.
Yeah.
Second question, hitting a wall while gaining weight. Any recommendations there?
Fast.
Yeah, do a fast. Or something else is just eat as much as you can eat in a day.
Oh,
it works.
Oh, it does.
It does.
The thought of that to me right now is just like, whoa.
Yep. If you were all right, let's play a scenario. If you were gonna do that, would you, like, for instance, like recommend a stand effort and walk like 5 times? Like when you walk after?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. My 10,000 calorie days, I was walking like probably 10 times. You know, anytime I would eat, I would 10-minute walk. Just go for a walk.
Maybe I'll try that. I don't know if Maya's up for 10 walks in a day, but we'll find out. You guys probably answered this already, but how can the average strongman build muscle and stay the same body weight? With that, that's probably clean diet and carb cycling.
Carb cycling. Yeah.
There we go. Water loading or other protocols to make weight leading into a comp. I've talked about water loading a lot throughout the podcast. I recommend kind of upping the water and then cutting the carbs, cutting the salt, and then you do a day of just 3 gallons of water, and then you have a day of misery, and then you weigh in. But what do you guys normally recommend when talking about water loading or other protocols for cutting weight?
It's completely situationally dependent. Like Katie Gutwald water loads and doesn't have to worry about fasting or anything like that. Like she can kind of get to weight through the load by Thursday. She's pretty much good to go. You know, she can just like eat almonds and snack on stuff to like kind of maintain. Because once you get within that range, it's about, you know, if I'm not taking in a pound of whatever, I'm not going to gain a pound. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's situationally dependent. But, you know, if you're cutting more than 10%, I would do distilled water for sure. And you're just going to have to suffer the consequences.
Why distilled water? I think Tom Butaffa said that back when, but what's the theory behind distilled water?
Into anything.
Go ahead.
Sorry, it doesn't. It's got all the minerals and everything pulled out of it, so it doesn't bind.
It doesn't bind to the cells.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So it'll pull out potassium and sodium and everything, but it doesn't bind to the actual cell walls itself because
it's going to pull. And as
it's negatively charged or positively charged, it's one of the two.
Yeah, but whichever way it is, it's going to also help pull more water out as it passes through your system.
Interesting.
So you're dehydrating yourself.
Oh God, the thought of that right now, just like.
And then there's some people that don't respond for shit to a water load. Yeah, and you know, I actually had that happen to me once. I did a water load and tapering off water. I was the same exact weight as I was before I started my water load, and that was a fun cut.
I bet. Are green powders adequate for vegetable intakes, or should you just actually eat vegetables?
You should eat your vegetables.
Justin?
You should eat your vegetables. However, I say powders, green powders, certain ones are, if you're under eating on your vegetables, it's better than
nothing.
Better than nothing.
But eat it with fiber and eat it with food. Don't just drink them by themselves. You're going to pee out like 80% of it if you drink it by itself. It needs something to bind to, fat or something. Okay. That's, people just drink these powders on empty stomachs. And I'm like, what are you doing? That's like, you're throwing money down the drain. Here's a tip. Okay, here's the thing for people when it comes to eating vegetables. It's very simple. You go to the store, you get the bag of frozen peas with the frozen carrots together. They're really tiny. You weigh out 85 grams with every meal. It's about a half a cup. You pop it in the microwave with a little bit of water in there. You microwave it for a minute. It steams up. You throw it on top of your food. It's easy peasy. It's fiber. It works, dude.
Justin was shaking his head.
Easy. There's no excuse not to eat your vegetables.
I hate peas. I do a mix of things. I call it a mix of things. It's chopped up onions, bell peppers, and jalapenos. And I just grab a handful and throw it on all my meals. And
stuff that like has, good flavor. Not like any like credible fiber in it.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever. I don't like peas. These are gross. I don't care.
Just fructans.
How good they are. These are nasty.
Peas are delicious, and so are carrots.
I do enjoy good peas. Moving on. If you have to choose one, finger guns or mustaches?
Mustaches.
Finger guns, of course.
Finger guns. I know you guys were going to say that.
Can't grow a good
mustache. If you combined a mustache and a finger gun.
Well, why is Dan Hughes your favorite client and why? I was going to say because he's handsome. All right, next question. When eating 6,000 calories plus, is there anything you would like to suggest to ensure good digestion? So we were talking about probably adding in the walks, but anything else?
Fiber. You got to have fiber, dude.
Fiber.
What's a good source of fiber?
Disposal.
What's a good source of fiber? Cereal?
Carrots.
Carrots. Yeah.
Dude, just buy a bag of those like long carrots and just eat like 6 of them with every meal. And that's why Stan Efferding talks about the carrots. The carrots aren't doing anything but giving.
We have a Stan Efferding question in there, so might as well skip to that one. Hold on, give me 2 seconds because I have.
Hold on, can I guess the question?
Go ahead.
Does the vertical diet actually work? Is the vertical diet legit? And yes, eating regularly scheduled healthy meals is a thing. Surprisingly, it works.
So
this guy became a millionaire off of that. That's crazy to me.
Are vertical diet based plans best for strongman, or are there other concepts you prefer?
I like the Wes Claiborne circular diet.
I love his diet. I wish.
Taco Bell today.
He does. All right, for people that don't know, Wes, explain his diet.
Whatever, anything that you can put your hands on.
I saw that man eating. He told me he ate an entire box of Star Crunch cakes driving to compete at Giants Live North America. On the way there, he ate a box of Star Crunch cakes. He sat in his chair during the contest and pulled out a box of double-decker chocolate oatmeal cream pies, and he polished that box off by the last event. He had a great show too, bro. That dude is an anomaly.
It's wild. Like the amount of, like, he'll just eat like
he's a machine.
Family size portion of every. Like he'll get everything on the menu from Taco Bell or McDonald's and just like, well, I got lunch.
He's the only person I've ever seen eat the flaming hot mac and cheese that they sell at the store that like is that vibrant red color. Like he ate that. And I'm like, dude, at OSG, he goes, I'm getting a chicken sponsorship from the local gas station. I said, dude, that's awesome.
Well, Nico, the Greek Goliath, said that a week out, all he ate was fried chicken. And he went from 380 to 400 because he's like, I'm not going to get any faster.
I mean, dude, hey, if anybody's ever watched Wes compete, there's something to it. Like the dude's a freak of nature. Like he's so incredibly strong.
I don't know how he doesn't feel like shit all the time.
I'm sure he might. I don't know.
I think that's what he's used to. So maybe he doesn't know anything else.
That's homeostasis. Dude, I did his nutrition. And he would pay me for it and never follow it. And then I said, why are you paying me for this? And he said, I like to know how much protein I should probably be eating.
I'm excited for his next show. He's especially I feel like at ASM he should have hit that 460 log, but supposedly Bobby Thompson was like all hyped up and like slapped the shit out of him, and that kind of threw him off. So I think next time
he's not a very outward dude like that. Like he's very introverted.
But I think I've been, even at like local shows, I've been guilty of like getting too hype and like slapping around. I gave Sean a dead knee because he wouldn't like slap my hand before a stone load. So I gave him I hit him in the side of the IT band right before his stone series. But that's another story. Any calculations for how to supplement micronutrients? Don't want to overdo it, underdo it. So like getting your micronutrients in.
Eat vegetables.
Yeah.
So you can't overdo it.
Just like eat a serving of vegetables. I mean, vegans exist. If you could overdo it, vegans would be dead. Like, I mean,
yeah, I don't think you're going to be over.
I don't think you have anything to worry about unless you're like doing vitamin A suppositories.
Calorie surplus on training days, calorie deficit on non-training days for maintenance. Thoughts? Is that pretty much with the carb cycle we were mentioning, correct?
I think that's probably
pretty standard.
Undersimplification. I don't know, because like
it depends.
It depends. Like if you're doing right, Justin, if you're doing a calorie deficit on non-training days, but a calorie surplus on training days, but you're still losing weight, you're not at maintenance.
You're not maintenance, yeah.
So it's just dependent.
Yeah, it's really dependent.
It's very vague.
Yes.
We kind of covered this, but water cuts are just dropping weight and body fat leading into a contest. You kind of want to do both. You kind of want to lean up a little bit to a point where you can have an appropriate water cut. Supplements for blood sugar.
Berberine, curcumin.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Digestive enzymes. Is it a useful tool?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not like eating an adequate amount of like prebiotics, yeah. But like, I recommend like if people don't have the money to spend on like prebiotic, because they're expensive. If you don't have the money to spend, probiotics aren't like, they're okay, but prebiotics are really genius. Eat green bananas. Like that's the best thing you can do. They're cheap. You can get them at the store. Just buy green bananas. They're just not ripe, and just eat. They taste.
Is it a special green banana special, or are they just overripe bananas?
No, they're not ripe yet. They're
not ripe yet.
So they're more green bananas are more nutrient dense, and they have potassium, correct?
Potassium, a lot of fiber, and they're a great prebiotic. So that's what I recommend doing.
Taste is great, but at that point, you're not eating for taste.
Yeah.
Now, water cutting tips for traveling for a competition. I've done this a bunch of times. I always recommend if you're flying domestically or flying overseas, you should wear compression gear, because you don't want the water to load into your ankles, into your legs. So the compression gear helps you keep pushing out the water, especially if you're traveling on a day that you're done water loading. So I always recommend compression gear. So like usually at least the bottoms. You don't usually have to do the tops, but at least the bottoms. And then my other suggestion was bring water cutting clothes. So if you're doing like the sweat sticks or anything like that, you're going to need like extra sweatshirts, extra clothes. You're going to get a sweat through all of it. So, but any extra tips on competing and traveling? Cutting weight and traveling.
No, you nailed it. I mean,
yeah, nailed it. Basic macro guide. Setup guide. That's all the question was.
1.5 to 2 grams of carbs, 1 to 1.2 grams of protein if you're a guy, or 0.8 to 1 if you're a girl. You can go up to 1.5 if you're a guy, and then just keep your carbs or fats under 40 and over 70. Dude, that's so vague. I don't like that. I'm not a fan of that.
All right. So I guess more specific next time if you're listening.
I like the basic one of the 30. What is the split? Like 35, 40.
Yeah, something like that. Or 30. Yeah, 30, 40, 30 or something like that.
Interesting. I remember my bodybuilding coach, the one that introduced me to Strongman, he suggested 40 protein, 40 carbs, 20% fats, which should be in your macro guide.
For bodybuilding, we demand a little bit more fat. We need the recovery. Yeah,
as a strongman.
Yeah, strength athletes, we typically go to like higher intensities. So we need a little bit more.
So 40% carbs, 40% fats, 40% protein.
Get your protein in.
And then the last question, but it's not really a question, but Kurt McGirt says A&W root beer is superior to Dr. Pepper post-workout.
Oh, it's not.
So that's you recommended Dr. Pepper for post workouts.
So here's okay.
Yeah,
He might not like it. Maybe he will. I don't know. But okay, so I like to do like a post workout for depending on the timing, like what you're training, where you're at in your training, if it's comp prep, whatever. But like something sugary post workout, or for people who are like cutting weight, whatever, you get those like cravings and things. So it's like throw something in around training. Have like people like, I gotta have my soda, gotta have my stuff. It's like, okay, let's cut it. Like drinking a shit ton of Diet Coke throughout the day. It's like, cool, let's cut that back. You can have 16 ounces or whatever of Diet Coke, or my go-to Dr. Pepper right after your workout. It's not as detrimental as drinking all the time. You're getting a little bit of benefit from it, and you're hitting that little dopamine kick of getting your soda in.
I get it. I never did that though. I always took in like Carbolin or some sort of sugary drink. So I never got those sugar cravings post training. I always wanted to eat like a big meal. Like I didn't have the sugar cravings, but honestly, I won't drink soda unless it has aspartame in it because it preserves me. So I asked for extra aspartame. I don't want any regular sodas. Give me all the aspartame.
Isn't that bad for your brain?
It's terrible for you. But it also preserves me. So it's a preservative. I want it to preserve me.
But no, Kurt, I told him because for his, I was like, have a Dr. Pepper. And he's like, does it have to be Dr. Pepper? Because I'm trying to get, so
you're trying to start a cult is what you're saying.
Trying to get people. I got Dan hooked on Dr. Pepper. I got a few people hooked on Dr. Pepper. They're like,
you had real Dr. Pepper?
Like full sugar Dr. Pepper, yeah.
The one in the glass bottle?
Oh, have I had real Dr.? Yeah.
Yeah, dude. We got that because they make it right down the street. And But
that's also like when I'm in comp prep and like trying to, normally most times I'm like trying to lose some weight. So that's the time, like after like heavy training, I just get a Dr. Pepper and it's delicious. And that's the only time I have one.
Wow. Maybe soda. I'm not a big soda guy, but I have been a big Carbolin guy ever since you were sponsored by Carbolin, Terry. So
you love Carbolin.
I haven't stopped taking Carbolin.
Terry, what is Carbolin?
Carbolin is
dextro powder.
Well, they don't pay me anymore, so I'm not telling. No. It's not. It's a polysaccharides. So it's derived from starches like potatoes and stuff like that. So it's a long chain carbohydrate that kind of gums up in your gut and leaves you filled, but gives you a lot longer energy. But I personally, if I had to do it all over again and I was rich, I would just get some high branch chain cyclic dextrin because that is the most efficient form of carbohydrate to intake when you're training in terms of like controlling insulin spikes and blood sugar spikes, but also delivering a high amount of sustained like glycogen. But it's expensive. It was developed in a Japanese laboratory that they gave to the Japanese Olympic team, I believe.
Oh, that'll be a good one to look into. That just looks fun. I want to be Japanese.
Well, I know a guy.
But those are all my questions for today, guys. Of course, I appreciate having you on. You guys were super popular the first time around, so I know this second episode is going to be a hit. I'm going to post all your information below, of course, kind of where you find you guys. And I won't put your phone numbers and street address, but I'll put some contact information in case they're interested in programming or nutrition advice from Mr. Justin Loy, and of course, programming from Terry. But that's everything. But thank you guys for coming on. Do you guys have any last words of wisdom to share with our listeners?
Terry, you look like you're thinking. Looks like he's deep in thought.
No, I just go out there and be the dream that you can see to achieve. How about that?
Yeah,
I like it. Justin, anything you want to leave?
Something good.
No. Something good, but that's what you say inside your brain before you actually say.
I was saying it out loud, wasn't I?
Where'd your neck go, Nick?
Right here.
Oh shit!
You are just like
20-inch neck now.
Your shirt is frowning because of how big your traps are.
They're getting large.
Somebody at the Arnold, whenever you walked away, no, it was Josh Reynolds. Whenever you were walking back into the thing, Josh Reynolds looked at you and then looked at me and he goes, Jesus Christ, that is a huge human. And I said, yeah, Andy took the bulk very seriously. So you look good.
My first bulk in forever, in 10 years.
You look good. You're like a chunky Clark Kent.
Ooh, oh, excellent.
Nice.
I like it. I want to be, my goal is to be like if Marius Pujanowski and Derek Poundstone, but then Vitalis Lalis joined up and they all had a kid, I want to be that.
Yeah. Marius Poundstone.
And then Pujanowski.
Pudenstone. Camby, how much were you eating when you were getting ready for the Arnold?
I didn't track it, but it was a good amount. I wish I could track. It's just, of course, the wisdom I was going to leave everybody is that the best diet you can do is the one that you'll follow. So usually, I try to. It was pretty much the vertical diet with added carbs was pretty much what I did. So I really upped the carbs. So I was doing, like, for instance, the breakfast was like eggs, oatmeal, pancakes. So I would get the French pancakes from Costco. You ever guys get those? Like, it come in like little packets. Oh, they're really easy to eat and they're really good. So
yeah, you definitely, those cheeks scream, I didn't skip a meal. That definitely screams bread.
And then I upped the pasta because
I was about to say,
of course.
Yeah.
But that's all we have today. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, notification bell, follow Justin and Terry, contact them if you have any questions about your own training, your own nutrition plans. And until next time, everybody, stay strong.